All right, guys, welcome to episode 5 of the Wot Supp Podcast. Today we have a brilliant new guest on. We've got James all the way from the US who's come on today to give us an insight into the supplement industry, his involvement in it, which has been huge. He has worked on some massive brands, which we'll let you, James see about further, and also a fellow formulator, just like myself and Stu. So we've got the usual suspects. We've got Stu Shannon from Universal Supplements here on the page. Say howdy, Stu.
G'day guys, look forward to having a chat with James here. Very excited about this one.
Beautiful. And we also got James. So James, why don't you jump on now, mate, and give our listeners a bit of a brief background on where you've sort of come from to this point, my friend, and what you're working on currently.
Oh, yeah, for sure. No, thanks for having me. Pretty cool. Now, I haven't done too many of these podcasts, a few here and there. Now, a lot of the stuff I do is on my Facebook or a little bit on Instagram, but yeah, no, this is cool. So I really appreciate you guys having me. My name is James Boccuzzi. I've been in the supplement industry a little over 15 years now. I've done the GNC, the Vitamin Shop, coming up through there. And then I started working with some companies. The first one was USP Labs. I helped them, during the Jack, the Oxy Elite heyday. iForce. Then I was a big part of Blackstone Labs. I started there from almost the very beginning. And I went to Redcon for a little bit. And then I started to go off and kind of do my own thing, a little consulting with brands. And that made my way to Myoblox, which I helped, basically take out and put into the mainstream. And did Black Magic. I created Chemix with the Gorilla Chemist, one of my best buddies. And now I am officially brand manager for Phase 1 Nutrition. I created the Citizen Nutrition, which is a brand new brand here. And then soon you guys will see the Fat Lab, which is a new brand that I created. I actually worked on this one. I started it in late 2018, and we'll have our first official product launch in 2 months.
Wow. That's a huge resume. Jeez, wow. Where do we, I guess, there's a few things there that that you obviously just did in summary, and I guess any one of those things would be anyone's whole career. Like USP, the Jacked era, mate, that's possibly the most famous sports supplement that ever hit the shelves. Like, people in Australia still talk about Jack 3D. We've never seen something similar since. Like, it was literally the most insane stimulant pre-workout. And when anyone says, you'll get someone who hasn't had supplements for 10 years come into a supplement store and they'll be like, oh, I've never used pre-workout, except once years ago. I had this tub and I think I had Jack written on the label, and, it was like rocket fuel, and, they had the most. It lasted for years, their memory of that product.
Oh, yeah.
It was. Wait, just before we continue, though, one question before you get into before you get right into the Jacked stuff. Is it Jacked or Jack 3D?
No one knows.
Well, it was originally Jacked. It was originally Jacked, and it was actually a effervescent, kind of like a Sprite flavor. And then I think there was a product out called Jacked Up or something like that, a testosterone booster. So then they changed the name to Jack 3D. This is going back way in the beginning, before the product was even out.
Right. Okay. So probably by the time it hit the Australian market, it's safe to say it was Jack 3D, because we were. Yeah, that's a good question, Stu. I never bloody knew.
Yeah. I think maybe it might have been only out in the domestic market for maybe a short period of time as Jacked, or I don't even know if it actually made it out as Jacked, but it was originally supposed to be that.
Yeah. So like for me, when I started lifting and training and stuff like that, here in Australia, obviously we don't see all of the US brands hit the market here in Australia, but we see, I guess, a small percentage of what's actually out there. We only see the real US giants generally come to Australia, or we did in those times anyway. And I remember at the time it was like kind of you had the option of Jack 3D, or you had NO Explode. and that was really where we sat. And for me, it was the first time I'd ever heard of pre-workouts. But what was your involvement in with USP Labs and in I guess the production of Jacked?
Well, I came on as I was doing demos for USP Labs. So just like gym demos, store demos, things like that. And I was working at Allstate Insurance, and I was like, selling insurance sucks. And so I hit up my boy at USP Labs, and I was like, dude, could I just like come on and work like full time with you guys? Like, I think I would like that. And he's like, let me see what I could do. And 15 minutes later, I got a call from the owner of USP Labs, and he offered me a job. So I was the Northeast New England territory manager. So up in Connecticut, New York, Vermont, Maine, I traveled around a lot, saw a lot of the stores, GNCs, the vitamin shops, the brick and mortars, and basically just educated on the products.
Right. So that would have been a good time too. And I think, like Stu said, we had Just Giants, and it literally was NO Explode. I think maybe Muscle Farm Assault was similar era back when it was a big sort of 20-gram serving size guy, but maybe a maximum of 200 megs caffeine tops. So
the big brands at the time here were you obviously had USP, we had BSN, we had Gaspari on the scene a lot. What else did we have? Obviously, Optimum Nutrition's always been around. I think maybe what was the we used to have the NO Shotgun as well. That one was big at the time too. But I remember Jack's kind of sat in its own little space. It was the only one who was doing the little micro serve at the time. Everyone else was sort of doing these huge scoops that seemed to be packed full of baking soda, right?
They were so big.
Super Pump 250. That was popular.
That was the OG. Well, and I think that'd be a really interesting thing that Stu just brushed on. So, like, it was really popular to do the micro serving, but I think I found, funnily enough, like most things, it's almost cyclical the way the market's gone with the supplement industry. I found it's gone from, it's very popular to do, micro serve, the 3 to 5 gram serving size with ultra high stim. It's gone full clinical dose, big, massive pre's here in Australia, at least. I'd love to hear the US. And then it's come around to, basically it's just followed its tail. So it's gone to, we in Australia have seen a trend towards massive, big clinical dose guys, 20 gram plus serving size pre-workouts. Some of the things you've worked on, like Myoblox Loco, hitting in that sort of category. And yeah, we've sort of seen it slowly go that way. But it seems to also, throughout that time, it's gone, it's fluctuated between these. Remember the giant riot days? I don't know if Giant in the US was as big, but these pre's that were massive stimulants in a tiny package, basically. And we've seen it sort of shift. Have you seen that with the US trends? I know working with the Gorilla, he's actually going to be on soon this podcast, and he loves his, we geek out on formulas, I expect. With yourself, where do you see the US market now? Is it trending towards similar big, massive clinically dosed pre-workouts? Where's your market sit, mate?
Oh, you could go on. I could go on forever about that. It's an interesting market now. And I think if you think about it, the greatest thing about Jack 3D was people got great energy from it. You got great energy, and you're going to have a better workout. You're going to push harder. So, then we started getting into these like clinical dosage, and then I think it's almost become like a dick measuring contest, like with who could have more citrulline and who could have more beta-alanine and things like that. And, I think they're like Loco is a great pre-workout. That's one of my favorite pre-workouts. That one is like very well thought out, but even like you think a Gorilla Chemist too, his product is very thought out. But a lot of these other ones you see it's almost like, hey, since transparency is such a big thing now, it's who could put more, ingredients into a product. But I think we're getting at the point where you can't put more in and really have a sustainable business. Like you can't put more in and then sell your product for that much more. You know, people aren't going to pay that much for a pre-workout.
And that's something that me and Will are big on as well, because we're formulators. I think that it's a really classic sign of the newbie formulator to take all the ingredients they want to put in it, push the dosage to the maximum therapeutic or clinical dose, and just chuck everything into it. But the product isn't fantastic. It doesn't work. There's no synergy between the ingredients. And putting the most ingredients in doesn't make the best product, right? I mean, it's like the analogy I always give to people is it's like baking a cake. Just because you have eggs and you have cocoa and sugar in a cake doesn't mean that if you put an entire bag of sugar and an entire bag of cocoa in, that your cake's going to be better, right?
Yeah, it could be worse, right? I mean, you could put, ingredients could have, a drawback after, a certain dosage. Like you said, synergy. All the best formulators that I've worked with, I mean, even you look at Jack 3D, that didn't have 300 milligrams of caffeine per scoop. That didn't have 100 milligrams of DMAA per scoop. It was very low, but it was at a mix that had a great synergy.
Yeah, 100%.
That's very important, especially when you get into the stimulant range, like you mentioned then. And it is something that I've definitely done earlier in my career with this sort of stuff. You do have a temptation to, because it seems when you read the data and you go, okay, well, this is what's meant to be effective. But you're right. You do hit a ceiling commercially, where the market, no matter how great a product is, unfortunately, the market will only pay. They have a budget in mind, and you have to play within that budget space. And we all do. We've had some passion projects where I've had products that I've literally made $2 on a tub just because I wanted a formula that was cool. Unfortunately, you're right though, it's not a sustainable business model. And that was when I manufactured in the US as well, so there was still some freight issues. But interestingly enough, I think with some of the projects you've worked on recently, I found a really different approach to doing that though. So here in Oz, we found just like the trends have shifted from the arginines, agmatines, through to the citrulines, through to the vaso-6s. We've also seen a similar trend with the formulating. You guys, particularly what you did with Chemix and Myoblox, very different, very, very different thought processes to how we traditionally have seen some sports supplements formulated. I think the original loco actually didn't have citrulline. It was huge doses of betaine and beta-alanine off memory.
Yeah, there was no citrulline. There was some in like the limited editions.
Yes, the red rum, I believe it was, had the citrulline. But that's so interesting. Here in Australia, the market almost wouldn't be ready yet to consider a pre-workout without citrulline. Where they're so dogmatic about, like you said, the measuring contest. They just want to see it on the panel. Did you sort of, in the US, is that it's the same case? Did you come up against that sort of roadblock when you release pre's that are more ahead of, they might be ahead of their time, or they might be really revolutionary concepts? Do you find that, did you hear that from retailers in your travels, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I think, the market is very, extremely trendy. In terms of like that citrulline, but it's very trendy based on misinformation and things like that. That's what I feel. I'm not a fan of full transparency at all. I think it's one of the worst things you could ever do to your brand. Because if you're a good formulator, say you're a Gorilla Chemist, and Gorilla Chemist would sit at my house and I would watch him just go through articles and read for hours and hours and hours and put together these formulas. I mean, this guy devoted his entire time on it, and his formulas were amazing. And then if you put it on a label that's fully transparent and with the low minimums that manufacturers do now, anybody could just take that and rip it. And then make it in a product and then undercut you and say, hey, I made the same thing as Gorilla Chemist, and boom, I just undercut them. And that's the whole thing with the prop blend was that, people would put citrulline, beta-alanine, and creatine, and then some stimulants, and then it was 5 grams. So you knew you weren't getting enough citrulline, beta-alanine, and, you know, whatever else. But, you know, if you do like a massive blend and, you know, it's a 20-gram scoop, you know, you're not getting, you know, the company is not really underdosing those ingredients for the most part. So I feel like the whole prop blending has gotten into like a sales pitch. Like I'll see people, they'll say, oh yeah, our brand got no prop blend. I'm like, that's just a label. Like your label, like whether there's a prop blend or if, let's say I take one of your formulas, you guys got the best formula, whether you put it in a prop blend or whether you put it in full transparency, the results I get from that product are still going to be the same. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, 100%. I think that's probably an interesting point, because you said that you do have a different view on a lot of things to certain people in the industry. Like here in Australia, like prop blends are almost unheard of now. And it is kind of, I guess, like, you know, it's important to sometimes protect your secret sauce, I guess. You know, and that's one thing that's become tricky, because here in Australia, copycatting is huge. It goes, like, if someone releases a good product, someone releases something that's, you know, revolutionary or groundbreaking, and then you see the same product in 5 or 6 different brands, and it happens all the time. I guess I'm sort of on the fence a little bit with it, because the market demands so much that we have full disclosure panels. But I think that you made a really interesting point there, and that's the fact that we're putting these full disclosure panels on a product, but the consumer really doesn't know what they're looking at for the most part. They don't know what they're looking at. So, you know, they may believe that they know what they're looking at, but at the end of the day, like in my experience anyway, like I'll have a customer come in here and they'll pick up say 2 pre-workouts, and the only thing that they're comparing is the caffeine content of the pre-workout, and they're going to make their decision based on which one has more caffeine. You know, and they're just missing so much, because it takes a long time to get educated on all these compounds, how what they do individually, how they interact with each other, what's the synergy going to look like between them, you know. And the consumer, for the most part, really, in my opinion, doesn't know what they're looking at. And what they're going to then do is they're going to look up each individual ingredient. They're going to Google it. They're going to find what's the maximum therapeutic dosage of this ingredient. And if you don't meet that mark, all of a sudden, this product sucks. They're underdosed on citrulline, or you know. And it is a bit of a nightmare sometimes when you're formulating and you have that pressure of trying to impress someone who doesn't even know what they're looking at, right?
Yeah, it's very weird. And like you said, it's a funny thing. A lot of people have said that to me. They're like, oh, the market demands the full transparency. But I only think the market is demanding full transparency because so many brands have like put it out there that prop blends are bad. Like that's like part of their sales pitch. So really a prop blend it doesn't change the results of the formula. It's just a label. I mean, let's put it this way. Just because something is on a label doesn't mean it's in the product, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
right. So
that's a very big point there, James. Sorry to butt in. But that point in particular is something that I found astounding, particularly when you look at, and even in a legal sense. So like when I formulated and manufactured out of the US earlier in my time, I found the labeling laws over there versus our labeling laws here in Australia with the TGA versus the FDA were really interesting. And you know, things that you could label as excipients or stabilizers, so for layman's terms, things that would help keep a product basically shelf stable, you know, could be labeled under different things. So I could add, and it was allowed to be, I think back then, so this is going back a few years, I think it was you're allowed to have, as long as it was in 30% of what was on the label, it was considered true to label. And when you're playing with compounds, you know, 30% of a 300 milligram caffeine product, you know, 400 or 200 milligrams could be acceptable. So
yeah, there is, I don't know off the top of my head, but there is like a percentage that you could be like close to or off by. Yeah. I know you're right. I know what you're talking about.
Really interesting. And I guess that, but I think that was a really interesting point you raised on the proprietary front, because I've noticed with say Loco, right? And that was one of that was a really revolutionary launch here in Australia. It was a very differently thought out pre-workout to a lot of other brands at the time. With that had a proprietary blend on the stimulants, but still disclosed the caffeine, which I'm thankful for. I think you'd probably, do you agree or disagree with the idea when you proprietary blends across other actives? Fair enough. When it comes to stimulants, do you think people, like in my opinion, I think that the consumer probably they need to be informed of a level of stimulant just for personal tolerance and safety and all that sort of thing. But in saying that, some of the things you've worked on have got some really cool nootropics that no one else has used, like Kana. Like no one had used that until the chemists had sort of whacked that in some of the Chemix stuff, 6 months ago. Before that, no one even knew it was a thing. So, what's your stance on stim and nootropic blends, disclosure versus not? Where do you sit on that?
Well, I do like them in blends, but I don't really ever make or have ever really made like these crazy overpowering stimulants. I just don't think you need that. With Black Magic, the Berserk, the Chemix, the Loco, I mean, all those were like solid. You took a scoop of that and it was a solid stimulant product. It's just scary because some of these other products have like 800 milligrams of caffeine, 5 milligrams of alpha yohimbe, and that's the tough part.
Wow.
So that's an interesting one as well. We're not even allowed to use yohimbe in Australia anyway. That's totally illegal here now.
But we didn't have it in your formula, I remember.
Yeah. Will and I are both not huge fans of stimulants. So we both, our favorite products for the both of us are actually non-stimulant products. So like I make a product called NeuroCram, which is a nootropic containing a blend of your standard nootropics. You've got a amino acid complex in there and a botanical complex, but there's no caffeine. In saying that, you still get this energized feeling from things like the rhodiola that I've included. So
the good stuff.
Kind of,
yeah.
We sit on the same, I think we kind of all sort of sit in the same area as far as stimulants are concerned. Like when I was like 20, 21, I was just chasing the biggest, baddest stimulant I could find because it was the fashionable thing to do at the time. But I mean, even now, if I'm trying to train, if I'm in the gym and I'm trying to push big weights, the last thing I want to do is be jittering off my head, have a racing heart, cold sweats. It's not a good feeling to be heavily stimulated while you're training, right?
No, like your heart hurts, like you're pouring sweat, your feet are sweating and getting cold, you're getting like cold toes. Like, man, I don't even feel comfortable at the gym. Yeah, no, I don't know how people like take that stuff. It beats me. I've tried some stuff that I've like literally had to take the day off of work. And I could take like any type of stimulants and the strongest stuff there is, but it's like they're chasing that exotic stimulant feel with other ingredients that just make you feel dirty, like nasty.
That's a really good point. When you said that, because I think that's what everyone's trying to do, right? I think with the highest stimulant, I reckon people aren't actually looking for they're not looking for the highest caffeine. They think they are. What they're trying to get is probably way back to the USP days with Jack 3D that was the first time DMAA had this really nice ability to give you almost like a euphoric sort of energy. You felt really, you're on top of the world whilst you were training. It was the best, really great for positive mood. I think it played with dopamine off memory. And I think that there's a lot to be said for that. Like you said just then, that you can put all the stimulant in the world into a container and they're still going to have a bad time. Put some well-placed nootropics in there and you've got yourself a wonderful training experience with very little caffeine necessarily. And I think you've worked on some really interesting nootropic-based projects, particularly with Chemix and with Gorilla. And probably back in the day, Blackstone was probably one of the first guys to have the odd inklings of those too. Where did that start in your journey with formulating, mate? Where was your first tinkering with nootropics and where does that sit now in the US market? Because there's some giants with Skywalk, for example, bringing that to the marketplace. Here in Australia, it wasn't even a thought. And you guys made an entire product that just was nootropics. So you're obviously a big fan. So how does it sit in the American space right now, and what drew you to them in the first place?
Well, I think you just get like a nice, like euphoric focus from the nootropics versus like kind of like stimmed out. You know, like you guys know the supplement industry, it's just it is a hard job. It's a cutthroat industry. And I think I just was working all the time nonstop. And then I started using these nootropics and stuff like Skywalk during the day, and it was helping my work. And then I wouldn't even take any like stimulants pre-workout. You know, you'd go to the gym and you'd take your like non-stim pump. But, you know, this stuff, you know, definitely helped my day. It helped my work. And, you know, that's what I want to get through. You know, working out is fun. So.
Hey, cool. What are some of the main the main nootropics you guys use now? Because in Australia, we're still discovering the space. I think we're limited to probably the alpha GPCs of the world. So that people listening, things that work on acetylcholine, things that are great for attention, memory formation, focus, probably tyrosine for dopamine. But really, we're not playing with a huge amount of them right now. Huperzine as well for that acetylcholine esterase. What are some of your, what's big on the American scene right now? And what are some of the exciting nootropics you've worked with recently?
Alpha GPC, the CDP choline, those two are really popular. Those are two that I like a lot. What else? Tyrosine, I mean, that's, given now people are doing pretty high dosage of that. I would say, what else are some of my favorite ones?
See, I like the
botanical
extracts myself. I've obviously got your amino acid ones like your tyrosine and your alpha GPC in my blend, but like for me, rhodiola, it's a must have in my product anyway. You know, just for that natural kind of energy that you get, but not through the central nervous system pathway is phenomenal. You know, you just feel great on the stuff, but you're not jittery. You're not feeling sick in the stomach. You don't feel like you're going to puke 10 minutes later like you do after some of these 500 milligram caffeine pre-workouts that are out there. So there's some really, really awesome plant compounds out there. And I mean hundreds. Like I'm my background is in horticulture, so I've studied botany and stuff like that as well. There's that many different plant compounds that people aren't even using yet that have phenomenal potential. I think that this space is only going to grow.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's so many, and like my strength isn't formulating, because that's why I like to work with like Gorilla and stuff, because you just spent so much time. I was like, I try to learn a little bit of everything, a little bit of marketing, but I'm like more of that like hype guy too behind the brand. Where I just like, I came on to Myoblox and I met John and I was like, hey, this is something we could really build, and then I kind of get it out there into the stores and hype it up on the Stack 3D and stuff. So I wouldn't say my strength is formulating it all. I just like to try different things and kind of, I'm like, hey, I don't really care what this did on paper. Well, how did it make me feel? Did I like it? Yeah, because sometimes guerrilla chemists would be like, oh, this product doesn't work. That ingredient doesn't work. I was like, dude, people love it. I don't know what to tell you. I took it and I like it. I felt different from it. And he'd be like, well, it doesn't do anything on paper. I'd be like, okay, man, whatever you say.
That's something that's interesting too. We had a guest on who's a really, really well-renowned formulator here in Australia by the name of Greg Hagland. And we had a similar conversation where we were talking about sometimes the I guess the formulation that looks the best on paper is not necessarily the best one when you take it, and vice versa. Sometimes the formulation that is not very exciting on paper you take, and it's like, this is the most amazing product I've ever had. And I find that a lot of the time that's true with simpler blends, less ingredients, smaller dosages, and just getting the synergy right. At some point in time, you've got to step away from the paper, right? And you've got to just try the bloody thing. You've got to just drink the drink and say, how does it feel? What does it do to me? What am I marking this thing out of 10, And it's kind of like, all right, it's not really tangible how we rate that. But at some point in time, you just got to drink the thing and see how it feels.
Yeah, no, and that's a big thing I see wrong that people are doing now is this like over formulating. Like I see products that have like Vasa 6, S7, nitrosogene, 6 grams of citrulline, and the list of Hydromax, and it goes on. It's like the person that is going to buy that product to try to get a better pump at the gym, if they took half of those ingredients, would they still get a better pump? And I think that's why you look at like C4, which is like still the most popular pre-workout here, and doesn't have a lot of ingredients. But the person that buys that product might be drinking a coffee with an apple, before their workout. And then they go to C4 and, oh my God, this is like the best thing, way better than my coffee and apple. So, products like Chemix and those like really kind of like high end, I mean, does the average person really see the benefit? I used to tell people, hey, take a quarter scoop of Chemix, like a quarter scoop, and Guerrilla Chemists would be like, that's not the clinical dosage. You can't say that. And I would be like, well, dude, does like somebody that is just starting out or new to supplements need the clinical dose to get the desired effect? I mean, and that's like, it's like expectation. If I'm expecting this product to stim me out and make me all wacky, and I take it and I get insane pumps from it, but it doesn't stim me out and get me wacky, then I'm going to say, hey, that product wasn't good because it didn't, what their expectation of what it's going to do and what it does, that's kind of, depends if they really like it or not. So with the formulating, are we like formulating past what customers need for the most part? So if you gave them 4 grams of citrulline and 100 milligrams of S7, would they get a lot better pumps than without it? Or do they need the Vasa 6? Do they need the nitrosogene? It's costing, the companies a lot more. We can't charge them that much for it, like that much more for it. So in reality, the companies make less money. We give the customers more for less. But did they need all that other ingredients to get
100%.
What they were looking for?
100%. And something that you touched on there too, which I try to explain to people and I find really interesting, is that regardless of if you're looking at stimulants, regardless of if you're looking at pumps, there's a ceiling, right? There's a certain amount of pump you can physically get. And you can't get more pump than that. You can only get so pumped. So like for me, for example, like I can eat some rice before the gym and go to the gym, and if I train at the right intensity, I can fill my muscles with blood entirely. It doesn't matter if I take 4 grams of citrulline malate, some agmatine sulfate after that. I can't get more pumped than pumped. Once I'm pumped, that's it. There's nothing more. There's not another level to go to. I can't go to, Goku level and hit 9,000 pump. It doesn't work like that. And the same can be said for caffeine, all right? Once my central nervous system is fully stimulated, which for me, like I've found for me, that's at about 300 milligrams. Once I've hit that maximum stimulation, there's nowhere to go from there. I'm at the ceiling. So after 300 milligrams, if I'm taking more than that, if I'm hitting 400, 500, 600 milligrams, that's when the negative side effects start to come in. So we've got kind of this curve, right? We feel better and better and better and better and better until we hit a ceiling. If we put more ingredients in after that, it doesn't continue to rise. Now what happens? I start to feel sick. My skin starts to look a little bit pale. I start to get a racing heart. I start to get cold sweats. I start to feel panicky. And these are all negative things. So putting more in, it can't deliver more. We've hit that ceiling. I'm at maximum stimulation. I'm at maximum pump. And what did I need to get there? Not that much. I think really what the issue is everyone's chasing what we used to feel on 137. And you can't do it, like we don't have that compound anymore. We're not using these methylated alkylamines anymore. And it's like, dumping 500 milligrams of caffeine doesn't do the same thing. So stop trying to make it do the same thing, right?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not going to, but what I think is really interesting and something you guys pioneered, James, at least in the US scene, I think, was what I love here is the versatility of a 1/2 scoop serve. That's a really great trend in the sup industry. And I saw that with Loco, and Australians have sort of, in our scene, we've formulated to follow suit. And it's where a 20/40 serve is a blessing to the industry, I think, because you get both, don't you? You can cover the low to moderate stim bracket and ultra high stim in one product. And it's a really great innovation. And we were probably behind the times. Did you guys see that, the 20/40s, the 30/60s, all that sort of stuff over in the US, James? Was that a while ago? Because we've probably the last 12 months that's happened in Australia, I would say.
Yeah, well, I think the 20/40 thing came from people started doing like 30 scoops of like full dosed like ingredients in a scoop. I'm sorry, my dogs are over here snoring. Come on, guys. They were doing 30 scoops, big ones, and then they were saying, hey, this costs too much. So, we kind of thought like, hey, do people work out, like need to take this every single day? No. Most people might work out 5 days a week. So that's, 20 full servings. So what a lot of people did is they just cut the servings in half, into that, like it makes 20 big servings. And then, okay, we'll make a smaller scoop and do 40 and then have the 20. And then, the company saves, a lot of money and they're still able to offer that like big dose.
Yeah.
And, and that's the thing that's perfect because, it's not trying to rip the consumer off. You got to like take care of your brand too. But that 40 scooper might be perfect for like a lot of people, a girl, a younger guy that's, just starting out in the supplements. Your mom, your dad, maybe they don't need that full big scoop. And that's okay, right? So, start them off, take the lowest dosage to get the ingredient or to get the result that you want and then go from there.
And that's an interesting point to touch on as well. When we talk about kind of your stimulant experience level, and, we're talking about, newbies and girls and whatever using a lower dosage. But I think there's something to be said for the fact that those guys who are chasing stimulants because they've built up such a tolerance, it's not necessarily a good thing for them to just keep on chasing more and more and more and more. Like at the end of the day, the reason that they're not getting anything from the stimulant anymore is because their adrenal system's trashed, right? So just chasing a bigger and bigger scoop and a higher and higher dosage of caffeine it's not always a good thing, and they're never going to get that feeling that they're looking for. If your adrenal system is trashed, you're not going to get that feeling anyway. So you can triple scoop, the strongest thing out there. You're still not going to get that feeling.
Yeah, there's a ceiling.
Adrenals are fried. They're fried.
There is definitely a ceiling to that stimulation you can get. Just like you said, Stu, there's a maximum ceiling for stimulation. The way these all work, apart from being adenosine reuptake inhibitors, they work on adrenaline release, right? And so from cortisol. So so if your cortisol is already yay all the time, which is most people's lifestyle now, between coffees and hectic lifestyles, sales reps, James, you'd be well and truly aware of what it's like to be constantly stressed for years at a time. You can only go for, if you're always here, the ceiling's here, you can only go so far. If you give yourself time though, and what I'm loving here in Australia is using the non-stim pre's and pump formulas in conjunction with lower stims to get the same desired effect. I've noticed with COVID, I've cut caffeine down to basically nothing. I'm using, 1 scoop of my fat burner, which is only like 120 milligrams of caffeine a day. Now, if I have a coffee in the middle of the day, I am wired until about 7 p.m. And that was never the case. Before I'd have coffee and go to bed. And it's a really classic sign with, with the adrenals sort of set up. But I guess not to deep dive it too much, but I think something that you probably bring to the table, which would be really valuable for people listening, because I think Stu and I, we both also really appreciate the commercial and the business side. And I think our listeners would probably get really good value hearing someone like yourself who's been involved in the marketing, in the hype, the building of brands. That's a really applicable skill set across any industry, and anyone listening now could probably take home some good messages. So I wanted to take a second to pick your brain, James. You said you are the hype man behind a lot of brands. You help build up hype. What do you put that down to? Like, you're playing with a market 20 times bigger than the Australian scene, and we still struggle to build hype here. What have you done?
The secret formula.
The secret formula. How have you had such great success, mate? Because the brands you've worked with are juggernauts. And I'm not saying obviously they've had other people help you in those brands and all that, but how do you do it? Like, your market's massive, and how did you? Yeah, what are some of your things that you think our listeners would gain value from, man? What are your strategies?
He's about to charge you a consulting fee here, Will.
Listen, I'll give you some good stuff. I'll give you the secrets. Let it all out.
Wait a second. I'm just going to take this.
I mean, I'll tell you some good stuff because, I have worked with some of these brands that were probably the most disruptive supplement brands out there. I have worked with a lot of good people too, so I'm definitely not going to take full credit for anything that has happened. I always looked for good people to work with, like the Gorilla Chemist. In my opinion, he's one of the best, if not the best. I think he's the best. I'll just put it out there. I think he's the best. I think he's the best formulator out there. So if you're building a brand, you want to build the best team. I mean, you can't do it yourself. All these brands that I worked with, when we were very good, we had a very good team. So that's really important. I worked with a lot of good people, like John at Myoblox doing the labels. I mean, that dude kills it. I mean, he's next level with every little detail, the feel of the product, content guys that are really good at making content. So definitely trying to put together a team of really good people. That's really important. But I think the biggest thing is outside the box thinking. And like we talked about, all the trends in the industry, people get very attached to these trends. And, the customers won't like this if we do this because this is what the market wants. When I teamed up with John at Myoblox, there was no such thing as limited edition supplements. No such thing. John was doing these limited editions since 2013. And I think I met him in late 2017, and nobody was doing limited editions. So this is a small brand John was doing his thing. We started bringing out these limited editions. I was like, oh my God, this stuff is so cool. I was really into it. I liked it as far as a consumer. And so I started getting it out in the stores, and the stores were like, limited edition? That's weird. It's like a different formula. People are like, I don't know if this will do well. I was like, trust me, it's going to do well. Now look at C4 has done limited edition, Cellucor. And I'm not going to take full credit for that. But what me and John did at Myoblox, two little guys, we changed a multi-billion-dollar industry. Everybody does limited editions now.
Yeah, and we're really blessed in that we're in a time now where you can do limited edition, right? Because the MOQs are so much lower than they were, say, 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's especially in the US scene. I found that really surprising. When I first dealt with, would have been 4 years ago, three years ago, I was quoting off the US, and they were doing, unless you were buying a minimum of 1,000 per flavor, it wasn't commercially viable. There was no point to the exercise. And manufacturing now, at least for the Australian market, if you're doing 1,000 per flavor per product, most times you've got 3 flavors per product. You're looking at unless you've got a huge budget to bankroll your new brand, then also spend on marketing, then also employ a sales rep. You've got to have a huge amount of capital to do that. But you're right. What's really changed is the standard of manufacturing has increased, but the MOQs have decreased, and it's seen the market. These amazing brands come to the scene, and limited editions now are possible because before you didn't want to put all of your eggs, you didn't want to sink tens of thousands of dollars into 1,000 of just one flavor or 2,000 of a flavor. Now you can do that with a lot lower, and it makes it more fun. We can pivot a lot faster. We can really move quickly and change. The other brand you mentioned, you worked with Redcon. They're a giant, and they do Yeah, as we can see, Stu's repping proudly right now, and you know, we work closely with some of the people who move Redcon here in Australia. They're good mates of ours, and you know, they seem to have new limited editions almost bi-weekly. It seems to be a really, you know, huge thing, and Myoblox Skywalk coming out very frequently as well. It's been a really interesting trend. What was the that was phenomenal, man. Props to you.
I think there is a drawback to the ease of manufacturing small quantities now, and it's the fact that everybody's a formulator now. So there's a lot of junk hitting the market as well.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing people making formulas like we were talking about. You know, there's a difference between what you put down on paper and what the product actually feels like. But I'm seeing people now present formulas to a contract manufacturer they haven't even tried. And they're receiving a product that no one's ever drunk. You know, it's like, all right, I'm going to go and find out what are the 10 most popular ingredients in pre-workouts. All right, what are the maximum clinical dosages? Let's send that off via email to the manufacturer without even walking away from the computer. And we have a market now where the consumer, there's some fantastic products out there, but the consumer needs to be able to see the difference between that and something, say, that the Guerrilla Chemist has formulated, and know the difference. And it's hard for them when you put, 50 different products that are just formulated by, I don't want to say fools, but people who are formulating that way. There's definitely a drawback to the fact that it is easy to release a product onto the market now.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think there's very many. I think there's a very small handful of people, at least here in the domestic market, that know what they're doing with supplement companies. I mean, very, very small people. And a lot of those people, I'm close with, we're buddies, and they've been around for 10 years, a while. A lot of people only got into the supplement industry after Instagram. So like if you weren't in the supplement industry before Instagram, it was like another world. Like you couldn't just run a 20% off ad and have some girl post about, or your influencer post about your brand. You had to build a brand from like the grassroots, from the ground up, not, okay, I got this influencer and then this guy and this bodybuilder and this person. I mean, that's all great and everything, but I think one of my advantages was I had that kind of grassroots supplement brand growth experience. And then I mixed it in with Blackstone being there. That was a great brand. And Redcon, they're really aggressive with, their brand growth and, getting it out there. So like I looked at what was the great part about this and what was the great part about that. And I kind of mixed them together.
That's so true. That grassroots, I think that's what all three of us, not being, in the similar sort of age cohort, would say, as a lot of the Instagram consumers now. We've had the fortune of doing the grassroots approach and doing the taste testing at your local gym, before you have your own apparel. So you're wearing an old torn Muscle Tech shirt, doing your own taste testings in person and literally handing out sachets and Ziploc bags and doing, just trying to basically tell friends, like it was building, like I remember building my brand. That was the experience before Facebook was only just becoming all that big, or at least I wasn't on it anyway 5-6 years ago. And you're right, it was a different game. Now building a product hype, we're so lucky with how Instagram has started as a consumer experience, but they were very clever and they knew how commercially valuable that platform was. And that's why Facebook bought it for several billion, obviously. And it's really changed the space. But what it's also done, I found, is it's made a lot of people who have just got a good following and might be aesthetically pleasing. They're now considered, sort of experts on matters. You'll see people who, just because they have a lot of followers, are suddenly experts. And like you guys said, the people who are good at this have been in it for a decade. You can't beat a decade experience. Like Gorilla's been, I grew up watching the Gorillas videos on YouTube, going back, a good decade plus. You can't beat 10 years of reading papers. You just can't. I don't care how many followers you have. It doesn't, you can't replicate the thousands of hours of poring over papers that the passionate people do.
The other point to be made is too, 10, 15 years ago or 10 years ago, when you launched a product, your true fitness gym rats, they had to like it. If they didn't like it, it wasn't going anywhere. It was stuck in the mud. It was dead before it launched. So you had to release a product that a true gym rat, someone who's in the gym every day, grinding it out, they had to like the product. Now, you've got, like you said, you've got these Insta celebrities and every man and his dog using a supplement. So I've met people who don't even know what a pump is. They've never had one. So they're still taking these products. They're taking these products because this Insta celebrity told me I'm going to get a crazy pump on it, and I'm like, and how was your pump? And and the response is, I was really pumped up. And I'm like, you do realize a pump is a physiological thing, right? You do realize it's something that your blood volumizes your muscles, and it's an experience. And people don't get that. Now it's just advertising, it's just marketing, it's just, this Insta celeb told me to take it. And I think it's a bit sad, really. I miss the old blood, sweat and tears days when your true dedicated gym rats had to say, I lifted this much extra when I took your product.
Yeah, no, do you know what? Here, I think you have the domestic market, and then Australia, you guys are behind us. So, what happens here might happen later down the road with you guys, but we're seeing I think a huge slowdown in new brands here. I remember, last year, we would see a new brand pop up on Stack 3D every week almost. And, that was because, a lot of these people are selling a false, reality. Oh yeah, start a supplement brand, start cashing out. Oh, okay, it's that easy. So I think a lot of people got into doing this, seeing people, like Blackstone Labs when, they were flashy with the Ferraris and stuff. And, these other people who, also made great money, with the supplement brand. So I think everybody kind of put it out there. Hey, you can make a lot of money with this. Come and do it. The manufacturers are doing that too, running ads, cash out now, and it's just not like that. I mean, some people who could do it fast, they do a good job at it. I mean, like Redcon, they did a good job, but those guys were balls to the wall with the way they tried to grow the brand. Not everybody could do that, and like Aaron Singerman, he had experience with Blackstone before too. So here, I mean, we haven't seen any new brands this year other than Glaxon, which is a really solid brand to come out. I think they did a really good job. And I haven't seen anything else. We're all the new brands.
Yeah, we're similar actually. There's been a growth in us smaller independent brands in the last few years as a trend, and we found that I think the prohibitive nature of the cost in air freight and sea freight and the US dollar against Australia has really influenced the space. So I think we've seen a growth in Aussie brands, but I think that's more because of the economics behind it, where it's very, very expensive to import now. And so we've seen a lot of local guys who have, with a lot of passion sort of take into the scene. But it's really interesting you mentioned that's over there. But one thing I think that I probably missed too, which Stu pointed out, was we used to be marketing to those hardcore gym rats, the bodybuilders, the guys in their hoodies in basements training at 4 a.m. doing legs. That was our big market, was the hardcore gym rat only market. Now it seems it's massively gen pop. It's now health well-being. It's now all about helping mums and dads, lose a few pounds, and not so much, the most dedicated athletes as much. And I think that's helped the supplement industry grow, because our demographic went from 1% of the pie to the other 359 degrees of that pie. How have you found your marketing has changed, your strategy, the way you've targeted your branding and that sort of stuff, mate, in the last little while? Because you've had some really unique packaging with Chemix, with Myoblox, really different look to a lot of the supplements we've seen. Redcon, Blackstone Labs, super clearly defined who they want to target. They're hardcore packaging, solid high stim products. But now you guys have been involved in some more products that are very big on lifestyle, like Myoblox and that sort of thing. When did that happen? And did you guys purposely make that decision? Like, do you now, when you build hype with a brand, do you, is that in your mind, or is that just a byproduct of the market shifting itself? Like, what do you think brought that about?
Well, I mean, I still think marketing with bodybuilders is really good, because a lot of people will see like Phil Heath, and that is like the pinnacle of lifting and working out. And I know like a brand like Redcon, they have a lot of bodybuilders, for one of the reasons why it works. The other one I know, I'm still buddies with Aaron Singerman. So he is like very passionate about the sport of bodybuilding. So, his brand, as long as he has a supplement brand, I'm sure it'll always be connected with bodybuilding. But you see, he has like guys like Cedric, and, he's always had these really good bodybuilders, and that works. I mean, people look at that, and that is the pinnacle of working out. You might not like it. You might not be like, oh, I don't want to look like Phil Heath, but I'll take his arms. You know what I mean? Like, still in a way you could connect to that. But I guess with like the Myoblox and things like that, I guess it's not so strictly bodybuilding, I guess, like competitive bodybuilding, or, that like animal in the basement, the fan going and the shadows. I mean, all that stuff is cool. You could still do Myoblox with that, but it also is a little bit, more hip and a little bit more trendy.
Well, see, I think when I think of Myoblox, I think of that young entrepreneur sitting there at his laptop, sipping on his Skywalk. That's kind of the image that sort of comes into my mind. Cool dude, likes to work out, but then jumps on his beach cruiser and goes and has a surf as well, and then goes and works on his side hustle while he's sipping on his Skywalk. So you're right. It's kind of like, whether you guys have put that in my head or not, I don't know. But but the marketing's great, and it makes me want to use Skywalk as well, which is actually the reason that I developed NeuroCram. It was inspired by Skywalk. I took Skywalk. I loved it. I was a regular user of it. Every time I'm sitting at my laptop punching away, I'd be using Skywalk. But for me, I wanted something with no caffeine. And so basically I developed a nootropic with no caffeine to kind of do what Skywalk was doing for me, but without the caffeine, because like you said, I drink coffees throughout the day. I'll have the occasional energy drink here or there. And I didn't want any extra caffeine. So yeah, you're right. It's definitely a brand that can be either or. If you're a bodybuilder, great, you can use it. But if you're an aspiring, business person, you can also use it.
Yeah, no, I think, the Myoblox, I think when you make a brand, it has to be true to what you're doing. And Myoblox is very true to that kind of California vibe. That's where those guys are from. When they were doing the content and everything, it was very, genuine and very authentic. And that's why you kind of get that beach, California, the loco and the script vibe from it, for sure. And, then you see like a lot of brands, they try to copycat it, and it's not even remotely the same because it's not authentic, a lot of these brands I've talked to, they make a brand, and I'm like, well, why is your brand called that? And they're like, I don't know, that was a nice name. I was like, well, it's got to mean something. Like, there has to be, a thought process to this, to what you're doing and who you're trying to target and what your message is getting across to everybody.
Yeah, like you see like a Myoblox copycat brand, coming out of Dallas, Texas or something, and it doesn't really have the same beach hipster vibe, right? There's a disconnect. It doesn't work.
Yeah, you got to have some authenticity to your brand origins, don't you? Because it shows eventually, like, it shows downstream, it shows in the formulating, it shows in the end products, packaging, design, feel, and the consumer picks up on that, I think. because we've got to be very careful with who we have our products seen in the hands of, promoted by. It's a very, like you said, Singerman was very, and we're hoping to have him on in the next little while if everything goes to plan. He obviously very passionate about bodybuilding, but also has the strong militaristic values of that brand. Someone like Cedric McMillan, an Olympia level bodybuilder, also in the military, perfect. That person screams Redcon, in their image, and that's a really good person to align with. I think a lot of brands now, though, they do fall into the trap of going for the person with the biggest following, whether it suits your brand or not, and it's just, they're looking to buy followers, and it's not authentic to the brand, and it doesn't, that comes through, I think. And that sort of is what I took away from what you just pointed out, James, that, there are brands that will try and do similar things. They're similar, they want to appear to have similar brand values to Myoblox and have the same image in the market because they're trying to, they've seen that's been successful. But unless you actually are that, stay in your own lane and you'll be a lot more successful, do your own thing. People like what people, there's always, you can't please everyone. I've learned that with subs. I can't make a product in every category. You can't put out every single pre-workout. You can't, you find the people that resonate with your brand and you do that really, really well. And you just, that's what that brand is for, and then if you want to, it's just authenticity, I think is massive in an era that's very, might lack depth on the marketing angle, but if we put some passion behind it, won't be the case.
Can I just ask as well, James? I know you said that you've got a different take on some things to a lot of people in the industry, and I know we've talked about your views on the proprietary blends and the full disclosure panels. But what are some other things that I guess you kind of swim upstream on where all the other fish are swimming downstream?
I guess just thinking outside of the box. When I look at, something, I'm like, hey, this has been done. What could we do that's different? What is, you almost got to look at the trends and then go against the trends in a way. So, instead of explaining why you're doing something, come up with a clever marketing way to go against that trend. Like, so for the Fat Lab, we have a product called G-Crack coming out, and I am doing that in basically a full blend. It's not crazy. There's like a functionality behind the product. It has a effervescent kind of diet soda taste to it. So when I was drinking, some like nootropics like Skywalk and stuff like that, I like the taste of it, but I was still going out to get the rain during the day to drink at work. And I was like, well, the rain is more refreshing because it has this carbonation to it. I was like, I want to make a supplement like a nootropic, nothing like crazy dosed, but something that, most people, average guy, is really going to like. And it's got to have that like fizzy, poppy crack. And we worked on it and we nailed it. I mean, this thing tastes like a diet soda. You put a scoop in, it tastes like a diet soda. You leave it in your water for an hour, you come back to it, it still tastes awesome and super fizzy. And so we called it G-Crack, G and then C-R-A-K. So it's like go crack in your mouth. And, it still gives you energy. But, I put this in a full blend too, because I really want to protect this formula that we worked really hard on it. So I was like, how am I going to, explain this if somebody asked me? Because, the real way would be like, hey, this is my formula. I worked on it. This is my hard work. Of course, you don't care whether it's in a blend or transparent because it's not your company. This is my company that I've worked, years on so far. But that's, they're not going to really care. How do you get slick? So I was like, what do I name this blend? And I was like, the No Snitches Mix. The G code, no snitches. And then people go, so why is it in a blend? I go, that's my formula. I'm not a snitch. I don't snitch. Do you snitch? And they'd be like, no, I don't snitch. Okay,
that's really
good. It works much better than, well, this is my formula and this is my company and I got to protect my company. Nobody wants to be a snitch, right? But it's just funny, you know. I mean, and I sat there and I thought about it for like 2 hours, and then that came the no snitches blend. Not snitches here, but you know, just taking something.
You're gonna have to send me a tub of this G-Crack, mate, because I'm a big nootropic fan, so I'd definitely be interested in trying it. And I think
I mean, I'm excited to get it. You know, we ran through the samples. We did a sampling at a store too, and a kid came in, grabbed a cup of it, sipped it, and then grabbed the whole thing and then just walked out. You liked it that much. So, you know, I'm really excited for that. The Fat Lab brand, I mean, we worked on since 2018. I don't know if you guys have seen any of the designs for it yet.
I've had a look on your Instagram, so I've seen a little bit of the stuff that you've been posting. That's why I think you've got a story up.
You know, I'm like a little crazy with the supplement stuff, but you know, I'll show you guys basically our logo and the motto.
Yeah, it's cool.
Wow.
So fuck your subs. And I think, you know, we're obviously not have $1 million of investments in here, but we wanted to stick out. You know, you got to do something to, you know, grab a hold of the people's attention. So we actually worked with a design company that works with like Nike and Beats by Dre. They do rap album covers. Like we worked with probably one of the best design studios in the world to create something different. And this is what we came up with for a logo.
Yeah, it's very cool. I like it. I can definitely get behind that.
It is fun, and it's what I found fascinating. How do you, like, there's a temptation now with the pace that the supplement industry moves at, try and knee jerk and get products out, you know, as fast as you can. You know, like the idea is you go, oh, I can see this trend coming. It's going to be big in the next 2 to 3 months. I really want to get in front of that trend and have a product ready to go on market. So I need to really rush and get this product together, get a formula tested. And, you know, there's a real impulse, especially a lot of us, we're all three of us are very passionate people. We love this stuff. And we know when we pick a trend, we want to get it, you know, be ahead of the curve. That's the joy of being, you know, business minded. But how did you, when you just said that, and you've been working this brand for nigh on 2 years now, but how did you keep it relevant and still fresh and something that someone else has done? Have you not that whole time gone, wow, this is a really unique idea, I just want to get it to market? Like, one, that's a lot of patience. And two, like, how did you, I mean, it's just incredible that you can, you know, that idea stayed fresh for 2 years in a market that changes what feels like monthly. That's incredible, dude. How did that, you know, how have you found that patience, and how have you found, you know, it's a very original idea if it's still, you know, still fresh 2 years later? That's wicked.
We were working on, this brand was actually going to be Chemix, and then, you know, another designer of ours designed Chemix, and I still, you know, I liked work. These guys had some like crazy out of the box ideas. They weren't supplement guys, and you know, I was pushing them to do like, let's do something really extreme. I want like, but still it would look good and not like this like death skull, death formula stuff. No, let's like make it crazy, but like really hip and like super colorful. And so we started working on these designs, and the designs came out really cool. And we actually had a formula, and you know, I was like, you know what, this just isn't like different enough. You know, we got to keep working on it. So we kept working on the designs. We kept working on like different formula ideas. And we actually came up with we have a pre-workout for this brand, and it is a crazy, crazy nootropic pre. There's nothing like it on the market. I mean, this thing has got like every nootropic synergy, different types of rhodiola, iodine monophosphate, acetyl L-carnitine in a big dose. I mean, it's crazy. And it works really well. Still making sure the flavor is really good. You know, we worked on more designs, more like logos, more colors adding to the brand. And, you know, if I get an idea in my head, I don't waste any time. Like, I got this idea for like G-Crack, and I started working on it right away. And my partner was like, dude, you're doing too much. You're doing too much. You're trying to do too much stuff. And I was like, yo, I just got to put my idea down on paper. And I formulated this product and we got samples of it. And I was like, wow, dude, this is like really good. I was like, I want to send you this stuff like overnight. And I sent it to him and he was like, wow, this is amazing. And then we had the corona virus happen and all this crazy stuff. And we didn't think, I'm like, hey, it might not be a good idea to release a really expensive nootropic pre right now. We have this like G-Crack idea, which was supposed to be like a separate company, almost like a just purely energy, like Bang. If it was like Bang Energy, it would just be G-Crack Energy. And then I was like, why don't we take this like G-Crack formula and put it into Fat Lab? You know, we had the branding that was similar because it was supposed to be a sister company, but I just had that like ammunition. I had that like card to play. And we're like, why don't we do the G-Crack Energy? Because everybody right now could still use a RTD taste style nootropic to feel better. You know, you're feeling down, you know, work is sucking, you know, people are scared because of, you know, the virus is so hyped up. Let's do the G-Crack. And so did some more sampling, perfected the formula, and now it's in production. So, you know, I just think you just got to constantly, like, I have a mind. When I was a little kid, like, I would think of like crazy stuff to do and would think that I could do it. You know what I mean? You had that like, oh man, this could happen. Like, I don't think about doing a brand or doing something and have any bit of doubt. You know, I'm just like kind of like have that dreamer mentality. So my mind is always like cooking up different things, different ideas, and I just try to crank them out now. Put something on paper so you have it there. And we did this G-Crack on paper, and it became a formula, and now it's going to be part of the brand, which I'm really excited about. But I just think it's doing something like that. We had you know, I was taking these products similar to Skywalk, and I was like, this is missing something. It's missing that refreshing factor that the RTD has. So let's give it a try. And it came out awesome. And I just think, you know, you got to think what is missing, what is out now that's popular, what might be popular down the road, and not worrying about the trends, not worrying about, okay, people like full transparency, or, oh, people like this. You just got to do it and be confident in it. And it might not be an overnight success, but if you put it into somebody's hands and they like it, tell their friend, yo buddy, tell your friend about the product. And that one person tells their friend, and their friend tells their friend, and you keep working, you keep pushing through, and then you got something big.
Yeah. I think that it's like, I think really what you're doing that's different is that you're setting the trends rather than following them. And I think that that's an important note, is that at some point in time, whatever the trend is, we have a big impact on that. We create the trends. So whatever the trend is right now, at some point in time, it was, I'm not saying the three of us specifically, but people like us created that trend. So
100%.
So the trend,
people go, oh, the market doesn't want that. I tell the market what it wants.
Yeah, that's right. So
I don't really tell, you know, hey, everybody do this, and they do it, but we have the ability to influence the market. I mean, look exactly what we did with Myoblox. Now, the biggest brands in the world, Cellucor, are doing limited editions. And I don't think they would be doing that limited edition if it wasn't for Myoblox coming out and what we did there.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Any new product that we release, if we go at it hard enough, and if the marketing is right, the trend will follow, right? Because we're able to sell something, and when the competition sees that we're selling something, they're going to try and do something similar, and there you have a new trend. So I think really with you, it's not being afraid to create a new trend, and not necessarily just sticking to what the trend is. I think that really what I've taken from what you've just said is instead of trying to pick what the trend is and jump on it early, start the trend. Start the trend, start doing something different, start doing something that you believe in, and create products that you want to use and create products that you want to see on the market, right?
Yeah, I mean, remember back in the day, like, I don't know if you guys remember Plasma Jet by Gaspari, that in the big box. I mean, you know, everything wasn't like so, and that's why I like things not being transparent, you know, because you had that mystery of, oh man, what is this going to do for me? And, you know, people have such a whacked out like way of thinking about things now. You know, I wanted to see what that product was going to do. Maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. But a person that comes into the store and that spends the money on supplements and wants to work out, wants to look better, wants to feel better, is that supplement going to completely change their look and put on 20 pounds of muscle and lean them out? No, but they're taking a step into improving themselves physically, mentally, their health. So if somebody comes in and they're buying a supplement, you know, you got that like in your head that, hey, I'm spending my money on this stuff. I better put it to use. I better eat better. I better hit the gym because I bought all these supplements now. So in a way, the people are making a choice to change themselves in a good way. So as many people, you know, put down the supplement industry, you know, the supplement industry is great. I mean, it's had a great impact on my life. You know, I remember taking those products and always excited to try something new. And I was taking care of myself and, you know, going to the gym and eating good. It's such a positive thing. And a lot of people like to try to make it and turn it negative, and the industry is full of scam artists and things like that. And, you know, really it's not, you know, these guys that have been around and guys like yourselves that are really, you know, into the industry and into the products, you know, you're improving people's lives, you know, whether it's in a prop blend, whether it's in full transparency, whether it's clinical dose or whatever, or whether somebody doesn't believe in it and you do, you're making a positive impact on the people that purchase these products.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, you know, you touched on a couple of points there that are really important to me, because it's kind of like, it's almost become like in vogue now to say, oh, you know, supplements are crap. They don't do anything. Don't waste your money on them. You know, get back to eating and training and all that sort of thing. But something that's left out of that, I guess, that kind of uber cool thing to say is that we've always encouraged people to, you know, eat healthy. We've always encouraged people to train. And, you know, we use supplements as part of a holistic approach, but in the way that we market, in the people that we bring into the industry, we're changing people's mindsets, and we're getting them to refocus on fitness, on their body, on their health. And that's a good thing. And I think at the end of the day, everyone's trying to formulate something that helps people. Everyone's trying to formulate someone that betters them in some way, shape, or form. There's no one out there who's actively trying to make a product that doesn't work. There's no one out there who's actively trying to make a product that is trying to rip you off. I think everyone's trying to make the best product that's out there. And something else that you said as well, I found really interesting. You know, when I got into, you know, bodybuilding when I was like 16, obviously I was, you know, pencil thin, and I was excited about it. I wanted to get into the gym and train. And yeah, I was eating healthy. You know, I did all the reading I could. So I knew that I needed to be eating, you know, my chicken breast and my, you know, brown rice and my tuna and my green veggies. I was already doing that, but supplements was something else that I could get excited about, because, you know, I wanted to surround myself with this, you know, this new thing that I discovered, which was bodybuilding, and the gym and the grocery store could only deliver so much to me. But walking into my local supplement store, you know, and talking to the guy behind the counter and finding someone else who was passionate about this stuff, who had some extra little tools that I could use that was exciting. I think it's like, you know, if you're, whatever your interest is, if it's fishing or if it's cars, whatever it is, you know, you can go down to your local camping store and there's probably thousands and thousands more different fishing lures and fishing rigs and fishing tackle than you would ever need to just catch a fish. Yep. But the point is, they're going to improve they're going to improve your fishing, and it's the same with supplements. Yeah, we've got hundreds of thousands of products out there that, you know, you could not use, and you could still build muscle, and you could still get lean, and you could still whatever it is. But we have the products there that we can use, and we can improve what we're trying to do, and it gets people in a good mindset, right?
Yeah, that's what it is, really a mindset. I mean, you know, none of these supplement companies market like maybe like Muscle Tech used to do back in the day. It's like 10 pounds of muscle in like 10 days. You know, the marketing was like crazy back then. You know, nobody like does any of that stuff anymore for the most part. Nobody's saying that these products are going to put 12 pounds of muscle on you in 5 days. But it's for the people that, you know, want that, even if it's an extra 5% that they get, they want that, you know, they want to be the best, look the best, feel the best, be the strongest. I mean, it's better than wasting your money on bad food, drugs, you know, all this, you know, bad things that we, you know, bad influences that we have, you know, in the world today. You're taking something that is going to, you know, help you. I mean, I've been selling these supplements for years, and very, very rarely have I ever had somebody say, "Oh, this made me sick," or "Oh, this made me not feel good," or "Oh, this person died." No, this doesn't happen. I mean, it just doesn't happen. It's a little crazy, like with the FDA and like all these people, and they're so hard on it. It's like, you know, and I'll have people tell me like, "Oh, you can't put that in a prop blend." I'm like, why? "Oh, well, just people, they're putting that in their body." I'm like, dude, they're not going to overdose and die on tyrosine. It's like, what are you talking about? Like drugs, you know? It's like, you're not going to overdose on BCAAs, you know? Oh, I need to, it's putting in my body. I mean, I don't think anybody is that crazy with what they put in their body down to the
the other thing too is that all the food products in the grocery store are proprietary blends. So you buy a packet of biscuits, you don't have in there an indication of exactly what, how much cocoa powder is in that choc chip biscuit, how much sugar, how much egg. It's not like that. You've got the ingredients listed, and that's all you get, right?
Yep.
And well, I mean, this is that in their body.
I'll tell you guys for a fact. I have, you know, like I do a lot of these like crazy rants on my Facebook. I don't do them that much anymore. I actually was removed from Black Magic and Chemix because of my like Facebook rants. And as stupid as it sounds, you know, I helped build those two brands. They wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for me. But, you know, there's always like people like trying to tell you what to do now. And it's like, I'm 35 and, you know, I just had confidence in what I was doing. But those rants were so good. Like they were actually a good thing. When I stopped doing them, you know, I saw like a negative effect from it, you know, because people are either going to like you or dislike you. And, you know, you got to go out there, you got to say what you feel and discover yourself through maybe making a mistake, maybe not. But, you know, I talked to a lot of these people, and we used to do these rants on prop blends. And I would tell you, some big company owners, they wouldn't comment on my rant on my Facebook, but they would message me personally and say, "I agree with you 100%, blah, blah, blah." Big companies, like some of the big US domestic brands, these guys would message me. And more people now are going to a half prop or, you know, some type of proprietary blend. I mean, there's so many reasons I could go into. I know we went into a couple, but, you know, also like you have where people might grab a product and see 7 grams of citrulline and grab another one 10 and oh, it's 10, it's better. So, you know, it just eliminates so many things. And And in the end of the day, unless you have $1 billion in like marketing funds, you have to have a unique product. You can't just have unique marketing. Like people, would say, oh, like you got to have brand ambassadors and face for the company and, all this marketing, and that's how you're going to do well. And that's how you're going to separate yourself. I go, okay, so then if you're fully transparent and a customer goes, hey, what's the difference between you and this brand? You're going to say, oh, well, our brand has better marketing. Our brand has an ambassador team. Oh, so what I'm talking about the products. So there's a difference. Oh, they're the same. No brand rep or owner or person is going to say that. They're going to say my stuff is the best. But if you're being honest and you want to be fully transparent, then you should say your product is the same as the other one. And the only thing different is marketing, that you market better. It's just not true. I mean, this iPhone, yeah, there's a lot of other phones. In the end of the day, this is a unique product offering. The customer gets an emotional connection to this product. It's different than the other products out there. I mean, anything. Yeah, I mean, and look at any really good brand. I mean, do you guys see ASRV at all? The ASRV clothes? Check it out. They have
with it.
Yeah, ASRV. They have a pretty big following. I think it's a very organically built brand too, but yeah, they have great followers. They have great content. They have great branding. In the end of the day, they have a unique offering. I mean, if you have a product and the other people could offer the same thing, maybe cheaper, whatever, I mean, you can't just rely on marketing. You have to have, I think it's important to have a unique product offering. I mean, anybody that is really into, like if you think about a brand or a product or something you really like outside of the supplement industry, it's probably a unique product or a unique
100%,
offering.
and especially with I guess comparatively small operators like us, when we're talking about the likes of Cellucor and stuff, I'm not going to be able to take C4, copy the blend, call it C5, and and compete with it in any way, shape, or form. I need something unique,
and that's
right?
like if you're starting a company like with Fat Lab, like we don't want to. I'm not trying to compete against C4. You're obviously not. I'm not going after like a big company like that. I'm trying to be a really cool niche company that could grow and that could possibly be a really awesome brand one day. But still, it's important to me to have a unique product offering that somebody can't go, oh, well, this is the same thing and it's $5 cheaper. No, I mean, the product has to be different. I mean, if you're making the same thing and you're just marketing better, then you're basically just a marketing company and you're not true to that authentic product.
And that's a really good point. You're a marketing company, right? And there are certain brands that are, like I remember the founders behind Ghost Lifestyle, literally calling lifestyle in the name of the brand. They built a self-proclaimed marketing company before they actually had the supplements released. They built the brand first, put out the artwork, put out the marketing before supplements hit shores. And that was their point of difference, was they were a marketing brand that they were marketing a lifestyle that happened to have supplements. But I think anyone who has been around before social media, going way back to that point made before, all three of us were around pre this game, and you had to. The product is the only thing that got you there. Like all of us have been at that point where when you can't boost a post and hit 5,000 people. The only way those 5,000 people were ever going to hear about your product was if that was the best pre-workout, or give them a different experience, or give them a new and improved experience from whatever they had before. Otherwise, there was nothing. You really had to stand out when all of us started in this game, because there was no other way to tell people. Like if you didn't give someone a pre-workout at a local gym and it didn't amaze them, that wouldn't go any further. That's as far as that experience went. That would not be told to their 20 mates, and it wouldn't go on. Now they bypass that with social media, but that's where it started. Anyone who's been around before socials, your product has to be the thing that actually speaks to your brand, that does the different things, that makes someone feel better, train better. It has to come back to the product. I think the product is the marketing. Everything else around it is ancillary support. But
yeah, I mean, Ghost still has a unique offering because they have those special flavors. I saw they did that like Bubblicious collab. So that's still a part of the product that is unique and is different from everybody else, because nobody else is doing a true Bubblicious flavor.
But I think the other thing is too that there's still some truth to the fact that the product still needs to stand on its own 2 feet regardless, because at some point in time you need to get the customer to buy it a second time. So it's easy to sell a product once. Anyone can do that. We can all market a brand and sell the product the first time. But the question is the customer going to come back and buy it again? And what that comes down to is the product. That doesn't come down to the marketing. Like, you can give me all the marketing in the world, but will we get repeat customers is the question. And that is, in my opinion, that's where we're going to see true brand growth. Like, you can't just be relying on first-time customers because your marketing is fantastic. So I think there's always going to be a place for the fact that the product is truly great. That's regardless of social media, regardless of what happens in any other space. The product will always need to stand on its own 2 feet to be truly successful and have true longevity.
Yeah, and another thing is like a lot of people will use these like gray area ingredients as, okay, now this is why the product is different, but there's only so far you could go with that before the products get taken away, and then you risk possibly something happening. So in the end of the day, if you take, like, let's say you wanted to make a cool nootropic drink, and there's a lot of ingredients out there that are okay to use, and you make this super cool, super special blend that each ingredient at these dosages, it works perfectly. And you put it in that, and you put it in a blend. I mean, nobody could just pick that apart and say, oh, I'm going to copy this one, or, oh, it's just like that one. You went out and you thought about this formula and you made something that works together and it's perfect. I mean, nobody is going to know, like, cook is going to tell you how to make their like special dish. You're not going to call up, your competitor and they're going to say like, hey, I want to
see and find out what the secret herbs and spices are, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, I just think, we're getting, like, I saw a new brand come out not too long ago, and it was really cool. Like, I really liked it. I'm not going to name names, but I went and I grabbed the product and I flipped it around and I was like, I've used something like this before. And so I put it down, and maybe I would have loved that product. Maybe that would have been my like new favorite product. But since it looked so similar, transparency wise, to something I've already used, I put it down. And like I was saying before, like there was always, I liked that mystery of, okay, what is this going to be like? So maybe if that product was in a blend and I didn't know everything exactly, I might have been more curious to try it and bought it. But I was like, I've tried that before. I've tried everything like that. And
we're guilty of that too. I think you get to be almost like a supplement snob. Unfortunately, with this sort of thing, especially when you formulate, you've been around a while, you go, oh, well, you're right. Like, you do see that. You pick up a panel, and if it's not something unique or different or vastly different, or what you consider to be the right dosage of something, you're right. In your head straight away, it detracts from the experience. Whereas when we were younger, or we started this game, we didn't, or at least until a while in. But what about with a brand like Blackstone, though? Like, I think that was like a real market leader, and they actually did open panels at a time when everyone was a prop blend. And I'm going to put that down possibly to maybe the Gorillas influence in there or what have you. But you sound like someone who's always been very pro prop. How did that sit with you when you were involved in Blackstone, and probably they were one of the first guys to really tell someone what was in a product in that space? Like, in the US market, at least what was available here in Australia, there wasn't much that was disclosed, right? So yeah, they were a company that had really creative, really different formulas. Like Trojan Horse, no one had ever seen anything with calcium pyruvate. Looking at uncoupling. At least those people who played legal subs didn't know about it. And it was a really unique thing. So to put that out and tell people how it was made, that was ballsy. How did that come about? Like, when did they make the decision? Let's let people know how to make this revolutionary product. Like Glycolog, crazy. Like, that was the first GDA ever. No one even knew that was a concept. Straight away, bitter melon, gymnea extract. Everything was just, cinnamon extract. Everything was gram by gram. I'm like, wow, this is like, at the time I remember thinking, whoa, like, it was, and it started me down the path of formulating, because it was the first time I went, oh, now I can actually quantify what this feels like as a consumer. I can go a formula with less or more and feel the difference. Like, but for you, you're obviously pro prop man. What was that like when you were involved in a company and put it to market with an open label?
Well, I think I started Blackstone really late 2013. I actually knew, me and PJ were friends. We lived in, a couple towns over from each other, and we actually worked at the same GNC together. So I knew him when he was competing, in bodybuilding, trying to be a pro bodybuilder. And, I was starting my way in the supplement industry through GNC. So we worked together before I even worked for USP Labs. And, then once he started Blackstone, we were friends. And I said, hey, when you could afford to bring me on, let's work together. It'll be fun. So I came on Blackstone, not too long after the brand started. And, the brand got some traction. I think like 2014, it started to get some traction, and it was really picking up. And, they were doing a good job at utilizing the Instagram, the social media. PJ had a following. People knew Aaron too. And because of that, we were able to get a lot of ingredients, a lot of products, different things first. And those guys, they didn't waste, and you see this with like Redcon too, they didn't waste any time from a thought of, okay, this is something we want to do, from a thought to it actually being a product. So they were really fast with, okay, let's get something, the next best thing. What's the next one? And then, you had that pro-hormone ban, and then, okay, here are the DHEAs, that we're the first ones with those. So, even though, maybe the ingredients were less hardcore, we were still selling more when we got new stuff in, like Chosen One and the Brutal Force and all that stuff. We sold more of that than any of the other stuff that was discontinued, just because the brand kept building. And so, we had a lot of the ingredients and a lot of stuff first, and they're very fast from, a thought, a sample to production. But, over the past, we'll say, you're looking at maybe like later 2016, 17, 18, 19, where manufacturing really started opening up to, low runs. And, I know people that were making small runs and slapping a label on it and getting it into a popular retail store. Like, how is a retail store buying from this like tool bag? And it's like, not to be like a dickhead, but, it was people with not real companies getting into retailers. And that I see as a problem, because you've seen so many brands come and go now, and people are trying to grasp onto what's new, what's going to make me a quick buck. And they grab this, they grab that, they drop that. And now there's no, like, really, I'm not going to say relationship, because that's for you and your girl or whatever, but partnership. I mean, back in the day, I used to go in the store and my stuff was stacked up to the ceiling all the way down. And then you had Labrada stacked up to the ceiling, boom. And then Gaspari all the way down. And then a couple other brands, and that was it. You had huge brand loyalty, but now you got all the influencers of the brand. And then every Joe Schmo that thinks, hey, I'm going to start a brand and make bank and get a Lambo, just not the reality at all in the industry anymore. It's just false. And then you got guys that start a brand, and before they even do any type of marketing, they're trying to get it into a retail store. I mean, it's like if I made a phone and I went in and I said, hey, I know the iPhone's $900, but I'll sell you this phone for $700. Oh, what phone is this? James's phone. Get out of here, bro. You know what I mean? It's like they don't even get the concept of building a brand. They're just trying to sling a product like a drug dealer almost. Okay, I got this product. This is the ingredients. Same thing as the other guys, but I'll give it to you for $2 cheaper. And that has really demolished the industry in a way, because people look at supplements now and they're like, oh, I won't pay over $50 for a pre-workout. I mean, it could have all these branded trademark ingredients and the company pays out the ass for it, but they've been so beat down by people trying to make sales and make money off of them and undercut each other and the griminess of the industry, that the way they look at supplements is these things are cheap. These things I could get for $15 on Amazon. Where back in the day, us three, we looked at these things like the holy grail of gains. These things were awesome. Oh man, that plasma jet, I waited like 4 months for that product. I got it. I can't wait to go to the gym. That's how I felt. The companies, even though it was maybe a little overhyped, it was still okay because they made you feel super excited to use their product. And that's what we don't have anymore. We don't have that, hype behind the products anymore. And okay, this is, we want something new. We want the next strongest stim, but we know that's not happening unless somebody's going to put Adderall in a product, which is not happening. That next strongest stim isn't coming. And then you have everything which is fully transparent. And then you look at it, you're like, oh, I already used this. So, how do we get the customers hyped up again? How do we get them to feel, I can't wait to buy that product. When I come in, I can't wait to train. That's what I want to know.
That's super interesting. There's so much buy-in from you. I can tell already in your background. You are so pro-brand, which is really, really something that you don't see now. That was such a thing. And, people, and I think it came from the big bodybuilders of our heyday when they started brands. There was brand loyalty. There was a brand image and concept. You knew about the ethos of the brand before you ever touched a tub. Once you took that away, and you can get if you want to, you can get a product to market in a number of weeks. Like you can literally, and anyone can do it. The barrier of entry is lower. That buy-in stopped. And you're right, man. That's really interesting to hear from your angle. Almost everyone else, like Stu and I, we always talk. We're somewhat formula-centric people. I always look at a label on a panel or a formula. But you're right. That was what was exciting about us before. If I think back to my early days, I wasn't really, really excited about the amount of GABA that was in Resurrect PM when Ronnie Coleman first dropped the sleep aid. That wasn't what I was really hyped about, going, oh, wow, because I could just buy spec GABA. You're right, it's branding. And you've got so much buy-in around how much of the customer experience is there and how much is reliant on the branding. And that's really, I'd forgotten that, I guess.
So for me personally, having that I do have a retail store, I have actually tried to keep some of that feel with my store. So like Will know, he's been into my store. I only stock 6 different brands total in my whole store. And I do have the big walls of brands. I still run my store that way. No one else is doing it that way. And I guess, you might say that it's like everyone else is setting the trends and I'm stuck in the old ways. But in some ways, it's a new trend of its own to do what we were doing 10, 15 years ago.
100%. It's going to come back full circle. So you're going to see all these guys that came in and thought they were going to make Lambo money on supplements. They invested their money and they're like, this industry sucks. It's really hard. And if you didn't have that experience before, they're going to be like, okay, I'm not going to order the next run. I'm just going to chill with the supplement company. And then I think you're going to see these smaller, medium-sized brands gobble up a lot of consumers out there. I mean, you don't see many more influencers dropping new brands. And if they do, they just sell to their own people, which is fine. That doesn't mess up the market anyway, in my opinion. If Joey Swole's got a brand and he's selling to Joey Swole's followers, it's just when Joey Swole wants to go worldwide, that's a different thing. I just used him. I know he's with Rise. I just used like his name as an example, but I think for the people that want to have like a real brand, that want to be worldwide and grow and have something unique too, it's going to come back around where, when I started, you had 6 brands in the store, and that's what it was. And they were stocked, and those brands can make good margin. They can make good money. They can provide you with support and everything you need. And, now some stores have we have 50 different pre-workouts. I mean, why do you need 50 pre-workouts? And you're spending $100 with 50 brands. They can't reinvest back into you with marketing, with material, with things like that. It's not like a good partnership. So I think we're going to see it come back around to where stores get heavy on certain brands again and build cool partnerships. Like with my buddy at Fat Lab, who I'm doing Fat Lab with, he has a store. And, it was one day when I was doing Myoblox, I sent him a box. And I knew who he was. He knew who I was. He was buying Blackstone. And it was funny, when I started Myoblox, I sent orders out to stores that didn't order. And I called and I said, bro, this is James. I go, you're going to get a box, open it. I think you'll like it. If you like it, throw it on the shelf. When it sells, pay me and reorder. If you don't like it and you think it's going to suck, I'll take it back and I'll send it back. And I think I sent out maybe like 50 boxes, and 2 people sent theirs back. So this is one guy I sent a box to, and he opened it up and he called me and he's like, dude, like, what is this stuff? He's like, what is this? He had no clue what this was, because Myoblox is a different brand than anybody has seen. And from kind of that point on, he's always had a very open mind to working with me. And I would legit like tell him what to do. I'd be like, yo, buy this, do it. And he'd be like, okay. And he would do it and he would have success. And I think his store grew like 50% in a year. And then we did, I had Black Magic, and I was like, dude, let's do a product, instead of doing your own product as a store and then trying to do your own brand, let's do it like a collab, and we'll put your name, we'll put your logo on the brand or on the product. We'll give you your own formula and your own product name, and it'll be like a collaboration. So it's not a product that you're pushing. You look legit by collabing with a legit company. And we did that, and the product was awesome. It was the Day Spell. And, he just kind of had a very open mind to what I suggested. And his store kept growing. And he had the most open mind versus any retailer I worked with. And he would just listen to me. And I said, dude, do this. I think it'll work. And I mean, knock on wood, everything I told him to do, he had success with. So when I was doing the Fat Lab and I told him, dude, I'm not working with this manufacturer anymore that I partnered with on Magic and Chemix. Let's do the Fat Lab, me and you. And we started working on that. And, I think it's going to be really awesome. I'm really excited for that brand, but just having that open mind and, okay, instead of trying to make a product that's my own and then build a brand and I got the retail store too, and collab, work together, boost each other, it's, okay, we're boosting your store. We're doing a collab with a store. Okay, now the store is doing the collab with a legit brand. It makes the store look more legit. It gives them, like props and it makes us look like a partner. And I think that's what the industry is missing. If I had a store right now, I would maybe do a couple products that were my own, maybe something really weird, maybe a B complex energy with a little nootropics that I could stack with every single sale in the store. And it wouldn't be like branded anything crazy like a Fat Lab. It would just be like my store's branded product. And then who's ever going the hardest and wants to work with me in terms of a brand, I would collab with them.
Yeah.
Until that was great. And then I was ready to do my own, brand. So just that partnership between stores and brands and people and working together and boosting each other has kind of gone away. And, everybody's trying to make that quick cash, but that quick cash you're not going to make enough quick cash to justify not doing something that's going to be long-term. I guess that's a good question.
Yeah. Chasing the quick money.
A good statement.
100%.
So I think that's where it's going to go around to: partnerships, collabs, cool brands, hyping it up, unique product offerings, fun stuff, and getting the consumer really excited again. I think
it's interesting that you what you just talked about, because basically really what you just said is almost exactly what I've been doing here at my store for the past few years, and it works. And I've done both styles. I've been the store that tried to stock every single brand on the market, and it didn't work. I'm doing like $500 to 1,000 orders with individual brands, and it's peanuts. They don't want to help you out. Now working with 6 brands in store, the amount of support that I get, the amount of merch that they send me, because I'm like with my 2 main brands that I stocked, every single month, we're doing sort of a 10 grand plus order. They're happy to give me some t-shirts and some shakers to give away and whatever it is. And my in-store brand that I started when I first opened store is very simple. I just I did a creatine, an L-glutamine, an L-carnitine, and a BCAA. And those 4 products, I do it as an add-in sale with anything else I sell. And it's worked really, really well. Like from what I can see in the retail space in Australia, there's not that many stores that are consistently growing. Other than with COVID-19, in the last 4 years, we haven't seen a month that didn't see growth. So our first kind of downturn was COVID-19 in 4 years. So, and even that, it's not enough to sink us, sort of thing. It's a bump in the road, and I think we've all seen a bit of a bump in the road with that. But it works, and this brand loyalty, especially, I have 6 brands. I work with total 4 different distributors. So instead of working with 20 distributors who don't give a crap about me and I'm just another account, there's 4 distributors, 2 of which I'm their biggest accounts. So, it's working really well. And for me, I found a model that works, and it's exactly what you just described.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see a lot of these smaller brands fall off. Some of these medium companies that are doing a really good job trying to put out unique formulas and good branding and good marketing. I mean, you want to have a little bit of everything. You've got to have a unique product offering. But if you have a unique product offering and no marketing, I mean, your product doesn't get out there. So, I think, like, if you look at Myoblox, to me, that was a really good full package. It had cool ingredients. It had their special Humanifor, which was, unique to the brand. The Blocks technology was in every product. And then they had these amazing labels, and then limited editions, and then cool, like, hip content. So they hit you at every angle, and every part of that brand was different. And even with me not being there and the guys just doing their thing, the brand continues to grow because it's just a unique offering, and it's good. And it's definitely awesome to see that. It's good to see, like, them still, like, doing well and putting out cool stuff and making the industry fun. And I think that's where it's at, just trying to do a good job with everything, but really sitting down and taking your time to think about what you're doing. And is this good enough? Is it different? Do I need to do a better job? Let me show you guys something funny. Hold on.
What are we about to see?
Oh, this should be good. Personal sup cupboard of the wizard.
He's got something funny to show us. I'm very interested to see what it is.
This is big.
You guys, I actually made this brand. Somebody paid me, an investor paid me to design it, everything from scratch, and launch it. And we actually launched the brand the week of the COVID-19.
Oh.
So it was like a real bummer. I mean, we actually put the brand on hold. I don't know if you guys have saw the Citizen brand at all.
Oh, wow. No, I haven't, other than on your Instagram. Once again, I had a bit of a stalk of your Instagram, and I had a bit of a glance. So what's the story with the Citizen? I don't think we've got too long left on the podcast, but give us a bit of a quick rundown on Citizen.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you guys basically the point behind this. Obviously, it's like kind of like a more urban training, like lifestyle brand. So just that like urban training vibe, kind of like a minimalistic, not a lot on the label, CZNU, Citizen Nutrition. But I was sitting there, and this is actually a fully transparent. I did a fully transparent formula here, so I will do some. I'm not 100% against it, but this is basically like an energy and fat burner and nootropic. And I was like, what do we call the product? And I was sitting there, and everybody does collaborations. You see the X, and so I was like, I want to make Energy X Burn. That will be the product. This is Energy X Burn. So when I started putting it out there, and you could see every ingredient, every ingredient, carnitine, tyrosine, caffeine, DMAE, and people would say, is that a pre-workout? And is it a fat burner? What is it? And they could look at the ingredients, and that this ingredient helps with fat, this ingredient helps with energy, this ingredient helps with focus. So you could look at the ingredients, and these were like store owners and other people that knew about supplements too. And they would say, well, what is it? I'm like, it's an Energy X Burn product. They're like, well, is it a pre-workout? Is it a fat burner? You could see how much everybody was like trained into, if this doesn't say pre-workout on it, or it doesn't say fat burner, then I don't know what to do with it. Yeah, and I think
I know exactly
such a small detail like that, but then that's good because I had people say, "Oh, I have nothing like that," and I'm like, "Yeah, you do. You got some products like this." They're like, "I have nothing that's like an Energy X Burn that you could just take it." I would say, "Hey, take this any time during the day for energy or for your metabolism boost at work." Before work, really whenever. I mean, whenever you want to take it. And they would be, I don't have anything like that. And of course they had a bunch of stuff like this. And they saw the ingredients were very similar, but just because it said Energy X Burn on it, it was a new product category.
Yeah, I did the same. That guy there. I literally had to write in the tub, fat burner plus pre-workout. Literally had to write it on there because no one knew what it was. So I did the same thing. A fat burning pre-workout about a year ago, I put that out. And the first run I didn't have that obvious on the label, and so I literally had to go, boom, fat burner plus pre. Like I had to write it in big, bold text on the label for people to get the idea because no one knew what it was. But you had to ask for it every day in retail. So retailers knew the category needed to be filled. Everyone wants to know what's a fat burner I can use as a pre-workout. Make one. And yeah, it sounds like we're both on the same page. But
it's almost good if they don't know because then they can't. So if I put pre-workout on this, let's say I put pre-workout.
Yep.
They would say, "Oh, well, let's say I wholesaled it for $22." They would say, "Oh, well, I get pre-workouts cheaper than that," but you don't get a Energy X Burn cheaper than that.
Same category now. Yeah,
it's the same category, different name. It's like just a way to you want to get people out of their
mindsets,
typical thinking, their typical mindset, and that's why I wanted to show you guys this product, not to like pimp the brand or anything, but that little detail was, it was a big eye opener to me. And that's why we're trying to do so much different stuff. I mean, with phase one, wow, this is a killer pre-workout. We got the Remix, which is going to be a fun product coming to Australia. That's going to be cool. phase one is going to be a really cool, raw, vintage looking, content-wise brand with some crazy formulas. So a lot of cool stuff, but really just putting that time in and thinking, how could I not go completely against a trend? Because then people are going to be like, screw you, you're out of your mind. You're too different. How can you go against a trend, but go along with the trend in a way? You're half and half. And then you can still get all those people that like pre-workouts and everything like that and fat burners, but they still think your product is different just because it says energy X burn.
I like it, mate. I like it. And thanks for, I think we've probably hit the about limit of what Zoom's willing to record. So I'm just going to wrap it up for us, gentlemen. But thank you for really sharing some really unique angles, some opinions we haven't heard all that often in the Australian sub industry. So thanks very much, mate, for coming on this morning or tonight for you.
Like 6:20 here. I knew it was going to go on a long time because every time I talk to do one of these, people are like, I haven't had this conversation yet with somebody. Yeah, and it always ends up being a real long time. But yeah, I really appreciate it. And, if you guys have any questions, you want to pick my brain, please feel free to hit me up. And I want to check out some of your stuff too. So please send me some stuff to look at.
Definitely. Thanks so much, James. It's actually been really cool chatting with you. And you've given me a new perspective on prop blends as well, because I'm going to be honest with you, I was 100% against prop blends before this chat today. And, I think you might almost have a convert here. So hats off to that. But yeah, thanks for taking the time to chat to us.
Yeah, no, trust me. You put something cool together, put it in a blend, and just, hey, this is my secret sauce, man. It's a secret sauce. Try it. If you like it. I mean, I drink a red line every single day, VPX red line, every single day for the past 5 years. It's just one of my favorite drinks to drink at work. I have no clue the amount of ingredients in there. I don't know, don't care. It tastes good and it gives me energy.
And on that note, we'll say goodbye, guys. Thanks so much.
Peace. Thanks, guys.